The Defense Department is looking to equip a variety of aircraft with directed energy weapons in the coming years as the technology matures. Lasers hold great potential, said Jeff Sailing, a strategic planner on the Joint Staff, an analysis lead for the Pentagon's Air Superiority 2030 study that was completed last year. If it can deliver the deep magazine that they're talking about, if it can also enable us to target quickly, that would definitely be a capability that's highly desired, he said during a recent panel discussion on Capitol Hill hosted by the Mitchell Institute for Aerospace Studies. Once we can integrate those onto the platforms, those would be fantastic for everything from offensive capabilities to defensive capabilities, he added. General Mike Holmes, commander of Air Combat Command, said he and other Air Force officials recently attended a tour. We can do that on an airborne platform.
So that what we can do is make the cost of delivering fire to an enemy affordable and to relieve ourselves of the need to rearm. Having a magazine that is essentially endless because we can generate power as long as we've got generators able to be fueled gives us, until the end of our fuel supply, the ability to generate energetic fires against an enemy, whether that's defensive or offensive.
Now we want to make sure that it can be integrated fully. The power grid, the cooling grid, the location of the weapon system. Right now for the Ponce, we've already walked all that. We've walked the ship itself. That is all very achievable. There's no hurdles that we can't get through right now. So to us, that's the piece that we want to just prove out with the Ponce. And my colleague Admiral Eccles will talk about that. But again, we feel very confident on everything we've done thus far that it will prove out very successful.
From the defense media,
figuring out how to aim and fire the laser through the atmosphere to hit a moving target is another hurdle, he said. We think we know how to do that. We're doing some test work to get after it. The service will likely equip larger aircraft first as it works through these challenges. But eventually it will make its way down to other airplanes, he said. The Marine Corps wants to equip the F-35B Joint Strike Fighter with a directed energy weapon, said Lieutenant General Robert Walsh, Commanding General of Marine Corps Combat Development Command, and Deputy Commandant of Combat Development and Integration. The service would probably start by putting the weapons on the relatively large airframe such as the AC-130 to meet size, weight and power requirements, he told reporters last year during a meeting in Washington, D.C. As soon as we could miniaturize them we would put them on F-35 seconds, Cobra attack helicopters, any of those kind of attack aircraft, he said. A laser weapon could even potentially be installed on an MV-22 Osprey tiltrotor aircraft, he added. Meanwhile, Air Force Special Operations Command is moving forward with plans to equip AC-130J Ghost Rider gunships with high-energy lasers. OFSIC Commander Lieutenant General Brad Webb envisioned them destroying enemy ground vehicles, drones, and communications and electrical power equipment. The technology is rapidly moving from the conceptual to the practical, he said earlier this year during a directed energy conference in Washington, D.C. We're no longer talking about bulky chemical lasers, but streamlined electrical lasers. In preparation for future laser system integration, OFSIC, U.S. Special Operations Command, Naval Surface Warfare Center Dahlgren, and the Air Force Research Laboratory are partnering to measure the vibration and acoustic environment of the AC-130J. Data collection is taking place this summer, OFSIC spokeswoman Major Kristen Duncan said in an email. During fiscal year 2018, the organizations expect to begin building the subsystems for an interim low-power laser system. Plans call for integration and flight demonstrations in fiscal year 2019. The incremental solid-state electric laser system demonstration is intended to prove the viability of a follow-on operationally relevant high-energy laser prototype, Duncan said. Additional investment would be required to get the project over the hump, she added. The timeline for operational deployment of our high-energy laser system is dependent on funding availability and DOD approval for operational use, she said. If funded, an operationally relevant airborne high-energy weapon prototype could be available in 2022. Looking further into the future, the Air Force is conducting an analysis of alternatives for a next-generation penetrating counter-air system or family of systems, also known as PCA. The service hopes to field the technology in the late 2020s. It is more than just that counter-air platforms need open mission systems and open architectures to facilitate technology integration, he said. The initial version of PCA might not be equipped with a laser if the technology isn't ready or there aren't sufficient funds, he said. But maybe a couple years later there's a leap forward in that directed energy technology, and it could be added to the aircraft. High-powered lasers won't necessarily be one of the requirements for penetrating counter-air, Coglitori said. However, there are requirements for survivability and lethality, and if directed energy can fit nicely into one of those lanes, we're definitely examining that, he added. The Pentagon is also looking to equip drones with lasers to shoot down enemy ballistic missiles during the early stages of flight. Our vision is to shift the calculus of our potential adversaries by introducing directed energy capabilities into the ballistic missile defense system.